It is now day 11 of the government shutdown, and the White House has followed through on its mass layoffs threat, with notices going out to more than 4,000 government workers. An administration official told MSNBC Friday's layoffs are, quote, just a snapshot, and more will be coming. President Trump said the administration intentionally moved to lay off, quote, people that the Democrats want.
And it'll be Democrat-oriented because we figure, they started this thing, so they should be Democrat-oriented. It'll be a lot, and we'll announce the numbers over the next couple of days, but it'll be a lot of people.
Not sure what a Democrat looks like as a public servant, but here we go. At least 9 agencies are affected by the layoffs: the Department of Interior, Homeland Security, Treasury, the EPA, Commerce, Education, Energy, Health and Human Services, and Housing and Urban Development. It comes as cracks are emerging among congressional Republicans about their strategy. House Speaker Mike Johnson canceled votes for another week, and senators left town after a series of failed votes, meaning the shutdown will drag into a second week. The Republican inaction also increases the likelihood members of the military will miss their next paycheck on October 15th. Earlier this week, the speaker took viewer calls on C-SPAN and was confronted by a Republican military mom about his choice to potentially deprive military families of their pay.
I am begging you to pass this legislation. My kids could die. We don't have the credit because of the medical bills that I have to pay regularly. You could stop this.
Every single Republican but 2 voted to keep the government open so that your paycheck can flow. Every Democrat in the House, except for 1, voted to close it. The Democrats are the ones that are preventing you from getting a check.
And the Republicans are the ones that have left town. Joining us now, MSNBC congressional reporter Michael Schnell, MSNBC senior White House correspondent Vaughn Hilliard is back with us. You and on Thursday, Michael, all the days run together now. You guys wrote a story. A private GOP call reveals early fissures over Mike Johnson's shutdown strategy. I'm going to read a quote here. I think we're going to get to a point where it's damaging to continue to keep the House out of session. This is from one of the Republicans telling other Republicans on this call. I think we've gotten to that point. So the fissures are there. What happens next?
Yeah, so just, of course, as at the scene, as you mentioned, Mike Johnson has elected to not have the House in Washington during this shutdown. His argument is that the House has already done its job by passing that clean CR. Essentially, he's trying to put pressure on Senate Democrats as this is the product, take it or leave it, to try to put blame on it. At first, Republicans were rallying behind that play call. Now there appear to be some of those detractors.
Because they're surprised that Democrats are standing their ground. We're all a little surprised.
Right, absolutely. So as you had read, that was one of those quotes from Jay Obernolte. There were also 2 other Republicans on that private call. We learned this from a source on the call who had raised concerns about Speaker Johnson's strategy here of keeping lawmakers out of Washington, essentially saying, hey, we should be back. One of the members, Stephanie Bice, had actually said we could message just as well, maybe even better, if we're in Washington instead of being back home in our districts. They joined Kevin Kiley and Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene. So only about 5 right now. There may be a couple more. Of course, a small number within the grand scheme of the 220 House Republicans, but still notable that we are seeing these cracks in such a high-stakes standoff. To your question of what comes next, it doesn't seem like anything different is going to happen. Speaker Johnson canceled votes for next week. They were supposed to be in session from Tuesday through Friday. That will not be happening anymore. House hasn't been in Washington since September 19th. We asked the Speaker about this yesterday, and he said once Senate Democrats decide to reopen the government, we'll be back. So really standing firm in that position.
They ain't been at work for a month, and they still getting paid. I need that job for Congress.
Vaughn, one of the things that I wonder that could break this logjam is the personal involvement of President Trump.
Yeah.
We have seen what happens when he's personally involved. Like we're what, maybe 48 hours away from seeing the hostages released out of Gaza. Right. Once the president comes back from the Middle East and starts to focus, well, one, do you think he will get involved and start focusing in on the shutdown, or is he just going to just be laissez-faire about it and let Russ Vought run roughshod over the federal government?
I think it's a matter of whether Marjorie Taylor Greene can convince him to soften his position. For folks that missed it, it's Marjorie Taylor Greene that has also really been outspoken in saying that subsidies need to be extended, that her own constituents down in Georgia can't afford health care if those subsidies are not extended. And she said also that Republicans could blow up the filibuster if they wanted. And so I know that the question here is, does that start to get into the president's head or not? Because last night, he was saying that there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be fired as a result of this shutdown. So far, he has stood in line here. And just yesterday, Russ Vought announced that these reduction in force, essentially layoffs, firings, are going to move forward. We know that I was told by a senior White House official that thousands were going to be eliminated. There is a lawsuit that has been filed by multiple unions, the AFL-CIO, the AFGE, that is actually going to be going before a federal judge this upcoming Wednesday. They have suggested that they are already aware of at least 4,000 individuals yesterday afternoon that received these notices of pending layoffs here. So I think the question is for the president whether that is a consequence that he is willing to try to politically put the blame on Democrats for, because so far that's what he's done.
Let's actually, can we pull up quickly that soundbite of Marjorie Taylor Greene blaming GOP leadership for the shutdown? And Michael, I want to ask you about it on the other side.
I'm not putting the blame on the president. I'm actually putting the blame on the speaker and Leader Thune in the Senate. This should not be happening.
Yes, Marjorie Taylor Greene.
That is the first time this man has ever said that.
Ever. And it'll be the last.
Yeah, but, she, in addition to what we just heard, made other really good points, which is what Vaughn just said, which is that her constituents and constituents across the country are being notified in real time by their insurance companies. That I have actually a letter here I forgot to give to our producer to make into an element, my bad, but that due to upcoming changes in federal law, you do not appear to be eligible for help paying for health insurance. Insurance companies are already notifying people in real time that they are no longer covered. People are panicking. I got that notice from a friend who's worried about her mother being able to afford health care.
Which state?
Massachusetts. It does seem like the conversation has shifted already from the beginning of the shutdown to where we are now. Republicans are agreeing that something needs to be done about health care. It just is the matter of timing. What do you, when you're reading between the lines, where do you think this is headed?
Well, one thing on the Marjorie Taylor Greene point I want to make, it wasn't just her constituents she was saying would increase her health care. Her kids. Like, she's presenting this as also a personal situation for her, and that could be one of the reasons why she's going to bat for it. But you bring up a good question, sort of like, who it's a standoff, who's going to blink first? The question that I'm going to be asking all Democrats next week that I'm curious about is, we're seeing pain being inflicted on the American people right now through the shutdown. There are the rifts. We have seen the funding freezes, the military's not going to get paid on Wednesday. And there was one more thing that I had down. Oh, and the furloughs, of course. That's a lot in one bucket. The other bucket is the fact that millions of Americans are going to see their health care premiums skyrocket if these Obamacare subsidies aren't extended. The question is the pain that could potentially be inflicted by the Obamacare subsidies lapsing, do they see that as greater than the pain being inflicted by the impacts of the shutdown? That, I think, the answer to that question from the majority of Democrats is going to dictate how this goes, because if some folks are saying, well, what's going on right now is really bad, we have to do something about it, then maybe we see an off-ramp quicker. But if they say millions more Americans are going to be impacted by the health care subsidies, we could see this going for the long haul.